Project settings. When we run Premiere, the first thing we see is the welcome screen. Here we have our account and most recent projects we have worked on. Also, in the recent tab, we can create a new project, open an existing project, create a team project, and open a team project. By clicking CC files, we see Creative Cloud files, which are the files that are stored in our cloud. Sync settings is what we sync. As our subscription is through the cloud, as we can sync Premiere and other software settings through the cloud storage. This is where our presets, desktop settings, layouts, keyboard settings, etc. are synchronized. If we open it from another computer, all of our settings that we're used to working with will be preserved. Project organization in Premiere. There are two types of editing systems. First, organization of projects as a database. This is a folder that combines many different files. It can be include or not include assets, and all service files. If you want to transfer a project to someone else, you have to transfer the whole database. For example, this is how Avid, Final Cut Pro X and DaVinci Resolve work. It doesn't include assets, but the principle is the same. It has its own database. Second, programs such as Final Cut Pro 7, Premiere and Sony Vegas work on the principle of a single project file. So, all information about the installation is stored in one small file. Anything that is additionally created during the editing process is created in folders next to Premiere. Sources are stored separately. Only Premiere knows where all the sources are located and doesn't interact with them in any way. It doesn't change or overwrite them. So, everything we do in Premiere is in a separate small file. And in order to transfer the project, you just need to transfer this file and the source materials. Next, we create a new project and set its storage location. Name, the name of the file we will work with. The location is the location where the file will be stored. By default, it always sets to a specific folder in Adobe Premiere Pro on the C drive. In the tab General is Video Rendering and Playback. Here we can see through what will be rendering video. There are a few options depending on the technical capabilities of your computer. By default, you can render the video on the CPU. As we have a lot of video cards evolving now, as we can do rendering on the video card. If you work on a Mac with an NVIDIA graphic card, you can see not only CUDA technology, but also Metal technology. For example, if you have an AMD video card, you won't be able to use CUDA technology, but you will have OpenCL. If you don't have a video card at all, you will probably have Mercury Playback Engine software only, which means that rendering will only be done on the CPU. Why is it convenient to render on a video card? Rendering is faster because there are extra resources. It's not only on the video card, but just divides the process. Some part is done on the processor and the other part is done on the video card. Using the video card is sometimes slow with errors and artifacts. Sometimes CUDA works very incorrectly with multi-camera and with some effects. If you get rendering errors, the first thing you should do is try rendering on the CPU and not on the video card. But in most cases, everything works fine. Next, we check display format. It shows how the timeline will be displayed in our project. By default, it's timecode. The usual scheme is seconds, minutes, frames. As Premiere is one of the oldest editing programs, as it's still the way to work with tape, and the last option is to measure the timeline in frames. It can be useful when you are working with animation and with 3D graphics. For example, if you are working with an animation project, You are given a calculated frames. Then you gather them because you need the exact number of frames. The rendering time depends on this process. We can display the audio using display format. Milliseconds is 1 of 1,000th of a second, which means you can trim the audio based on thousandths of a second. If you are trimming video, you only trim frame by frame. And you can trim the sound in fractions of a frame. Then we can choose audio samples. It's even more gradation of a second, because the sound is recorded at a certain frequency, 44 Hz, 48 Hz, etc. Hertz is the number of units per second. 48 Hz are 48,000 divisions per second. The capture format is the capture methods. It's the technology left over from capturing from film media. Here we can choose the default setting, DV or HDV. Now this is almost not used by anyone. I mentioned it because I promised to tell you everything in detail. At the bottom there is an option display the project item name and label color for all instances, which allows you to color code project and timeline. For example, you can paint one clip in the project panel red and in the timeline pink because it's convenient for you. Everyone chooses wherever this feature is convenient or not, so it's disabled by default. After setting up General, we check Scratch disks. Here is what is created by Premiere itself to work with this project. So, we create the project file by clicking OK. What is it? Here we can choose the place where the service files that we create while working will appear. By default, it's same as project, which means it's in the same place as the project itself. For convenience, we can choose another folder. What parameters can we set? First, captured video and captured audio. We get back to the film media. So, wherever we capture from the film, by default, it's installed in the folders next to the project file. Second, video and audio previews. Well, when your computer can't handle the playback of some effects, you can calculate this segment. It will create its own internal file in the format that we give it. Then, when it plays that piece of video, it won't recalculate these effects. It will just play the recalculated file. It's the same with audio previews. In order to not recalculate the effects for the audio every time, it creates its own internal file and puts them in a specified folder. Why is it the generated content that it needs to work? If we transfer a project to another computer, we transfer only one project file. We can regenerate this content again, so we're not afraid of accidentally losing it. The only thing we need to be careful with the project file itself, because it contains all the main information. Both video previews and audio previews would be calculated by it if we saved our project file and source materials. Third, project autosave. By default, we can autosave the project every 15 minutes, but we also can set any other number. Here we can choose a place to store our autosaves. How can you organize your project and never lose the needed files? You have to use cloud storage. For example, I use Google Drive because it's convenient and suits me for the price and interface. I always store project files in cloud storage, so I have every project save left on the cloud drive. You need the internet for this type of saving. There are risks that shouldn't be forgotten. Your computer may burn out, the disk may crumble, etc. So, if you have unreliable storage, it makes sense to separate the place of the project storage and the place of autosave storage in different places. For example, a project file can be stored on drive C, while autosaves can be stored on drive D. In addition, the source materials always need to be duplicated. You should keep them in at least two places on different hard drives. Fourth, Creative Cloud Libraries downloads. There is such a thing which unites all Premiere applications. called Libraries. It's linked to Creative Cloud Storage. It allows you to share not only sets, but also elements or layers in Photoshop. You don't have to save it, you can just drop it in Libraries, and it will be available in all the other applications. Here we just need to choose where the layer will be saved. Fifth, Motion Graphics Template Media. This is a useful thing that can be stored either on the disk next to the project or on cloud storage. To the right of selecting the Save folder, we see how much space we have left on a particular disk. Save the settings, click OK, and we have a project. Finally, we are done. We are going to continue with the workspace layout.